Hey there, I'm Ken, this is CRT, and welcome to this episode where I'm going to look at more computers that I picked up during the month of December. But before I open up this box, a little backstory about my history with computers. For those of you that watch the channel, you may have seen that the very first computer I had access to was through the school that my mom was a teacher at, and that was an Apple II Plus. And then, when I was young, I got a TRS-80 color computer too. And I had that for a few years before I eventually moved on to getting an Apple II GS. Now, as I was growing up, I had, I think, one friend that had an Apple computer before I got mine. A bunch of us all owned color computers, ones and twos. So that was the main computer that I was familiar with. And I think one of my friends had an IBM also. But the interesting thing was that I had zero knowledge growing up about the Commodore computers. And it wasn't until I started getting into my retro YouTube stuff, watching retro YouTube channels, before I discovered exactly how popular Commodores were back then. I never knew. I've actually, in my lifetime, never seen a Commodore computer in person. I've never touched one, I've never seen one, I've never even been in the same room as one. So, I figured it's time that I started trying to figure out what made these computers so popular. So I thought, well, if I'm going to start looking at the Commodore computers, I better start at the beginning. So I have picked up a Commodore VIC-20. I don't know whether it works. I don't know whether I'll be able to get it working. But I figured it's a good place to start. And also, in the same deal, I managed to get another TRS-80 color computer, one, which needs a little bit of work. It's had the cable cut off, and I don't know whether this one works or not. It's also got some modifications on it, a couple buttons on the side here. So, that's going to be a future video, but right now I want to take a look at this VIC-20. This is it, the very first Commodore computer I have ever owned or touched or even seen in person. Now, it's quite yellowed, needs a good cleaning. Probably, I would guess this is the escape key is broken off. There's a crack in the case right there. At the back, on the bottom case, there's a piece broken out of here. That's right there. And here is the serial number for those of you that want to know. P1605516. Made in the USA. And also, well, there is screws in it, but yeah, the top just comes right off because it looks like all of the screw pieces here are broken off. So that all needs to be fixed. There's the power light. Well, looking at it, it looks like all of the chips are here. Whether they still work or not is another question. Definitely needs a good cleaning. And I'll have to test that fuse out. But all in all, this might be something I'll be able to get running. There we go. I have the board out of the case just so that I can look at the back. And, well, the RF shield is still there, held on by some flaking copper tape here. So the back end is looking all very nice and clean. Doesn't look like anything has leaked in the case or anything like that. More broken standoffs here that need to be replaced. Or fixed, I guess, glued back on. Yeah, looks good. So, all in all, I would say, if these chips are working, this looks to be in pretty decent shape, I would say, other than cosmetic problems. Okay, so one of the first things I am going to do is test and see if this fuse is working. And the fuse is fine. Now, I do not have a power source for this, but it's a 9-volt AC power source that takes a figure 8 plug. Now, you can use a DC power source with this, from what I've seen. You have to use about 12 volts because there is a voltage drop when it runs through. But what I'm planning on doing is I will take a old stereo cord that I have that has the figure 8 plug on the end. I'm going to cut it off and I'm going to attach it to a multi-end for a variable power source that I have, and then we will plug this in and see if it explodes. So this is the end I have to attach the wires to. So, cut. There we go, and now that is ready to be plugged into my multi-power source, and that can be plugged into the VIC-20. I have the plug plugged into the multi-device here. Got it set to 12 volts. And we've got the computer ready to go. The power switch is on, so let's see what happens when I flip the switch. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but we're getting a very faint red light there. It's very light in the room right now, so. But we're definitely getting power. So, I guess it's time to figure out a way to hook this up to a TV. I've got my handy little 5-pin 4-output cable here that I've used on my TI-99. I've also used it as a cassette cable for my MC10 computer. Now, if I have read the pinouts correctly online, the white cable should be my video. So I'm going to test it out on my little TV here. There we go. I've got everything plugged in. Just have to flip the power switch. And and wait for the TV to come on. Bingo! It is working! 3583 bytes free. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I have video. So let's just switch this off. Now we'll hook up the keyboard to see if it works. Okay, the keyboard is doing some weird things. Something is not right with the keyboard. We're getting back arrows. I think it's that broken key right there is pushing down. I wonder if I can pull that up. Let's just grab get a little screw in there. There. Well, I think the keyboard needs a good cleaning, but the keys are not all that responsive. But they are working. How do you backspace on this thing? There. There we go. And it works. I've written my first program on a Commodore VIC-20. Well, I not only have my first ever Commodore computer, but I have a working Commodore computer, a VIC-20. Now I guess I just got to get a hold of some cartridges and whatnot for it, and yeah. Maybe a data set, play some, just, you know, so I can play some games on it. Because as far as I know, that is what Commodore is really all about, is the games. But I am super happy that this computer works. It needs some cosmetic stuff, but most importantly, it's working. Plus I have that TRS-80 that I have to fix up. And yeah, all in all, I'd have to say this was a great purchase. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching me taking a look at the very first Commodore computer I have ever been in the same room with, that I've ever touched, that I've ever turned on. I am a Commodore newbie, but I've now got a VIC-20. So if you did enjoy this video, you can do all that stuff with the liking, subscribing, and commenting below, because everything and anything you do is always greatly appreciated. But that will be it for this episode, so I will see you next time.